Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Just reliving some moments last night of the All-Star game. I love baseball, but gosh, I hate Major League Baseball, the organization. Patrice Onwuka, good morning. Thanks for joining us on a special
Larry.
Wednesday here on O'Connor and Company. I stayed up as long as I could watching the All-Star game. I'm still annoyed that Major League Baseball hasn't formally apologized to the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia for buying into all the lies about their voter integrity
4 years ago?
bills. Yeah, and Joe Biden
Wow.
compelled them to move the All-Star game from Atlanta because they're so racist down there. And, of course, now they bring the All-Star game back and no apologies. No, just act like it never happened. Act like 2021 and 2022 never happened. 6:35, we're going to talk to Cal Thomas today. At 7:05, Daniel Turner is going to join us. 8:05, Nick Minnock of Channel 7. And then at 8:35, we got to talk to Chuck Thies because Trayon White got reelected last night. But the more things change, the more things stay the same. Literally.
Only
well,
in
not
DC.
only D.C. Now, New York has a shot here, too. Come on.
Yeah, but who puts crack smokers back in office time and time again? I mean,
Again,
DC
don't
is just
count
special.
New York out. Well, hold on. I don't think there are any legitimate accusations that Trayon White's a crack smoker. Hold on. That was
I'm
Marion
not talking
Barry.
about Trayon White.
Oh,
yeah,
all right.
exactly.
I just want to make
Marion
sure our
Barry.
listeners understand. Trayon White
that's what I was
is
referring
allegedly
to.
a corrupt anti-Semite who thinks the Jews control the weather. Now, get it straight.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of those people in politics in different cities, unfortunately.
So we'll find out about Chuck Thies coming up later at 8:35 as, DC's just going to do what DC does. What are you doing here? It's Wednesday.
Well, Julie and I,
don't even try to say
musical
Wednesday,
chairs
by
today.
the way. No one's going to.
Oh, no. There's no Wednesday, no Monday, no Tuesday, not even a Thursday. Yay is reserved for Fridays, as everybody knows, Larry.
All right.
Today's just Wednesday.
Who gave Julie the day off? What's going on? I'm confused.
Well, we played musical chairs or musical calendars. I don't know what you call it. So she's. I would be on tomorrow, but I'm testifying in the Senate tomorrow morning, and. They're like, we need you to be here at 9. And I said, well, the show doesn't end till 9. How is that going to work? So Julie was so kind to switch with me.
And I got to deal with you today. Of course, I knew that. I just wanted to subtly and artfully get you to let our listeners know that you'll be testifying on Capitol Hill tomorrow.
Yes,
Which
on
on
labor issues.
Labor issues.
Before
this is about
before this,
women getting pregnant and giving birth.
Not that kind of labor, although I have done that a couple of times, so I do understand the process.
We're all experts on that.
No, really about independent contractors, self-employed freelancers, how we can protect them in this country against bad regulations, and also how we can expand, give them access to benefits they don't, get or can't afford to secure in the private market.
Well, I'm glad they didn't ask me to do that.
Part of my work at
fantastic.
Independent Women Forum. So,
Of course.
yeah.
Absolutely. So
Very
we'll look
excited.
forward to that testimony tomorrow after our program. Julie will be in for you
Sounds
tomorrow.
good.
You are in for Julie today, and all is right with the world. Whenever there's like an adjustment in our regular routine, I want to make sure everybody understands so that they're not shook. I don't want people to be shook.
They're like,
I don't
what's
people
going
being
on?
shook.
Although Julie and I hear that people think we sound the same on air, so we are sisters from a different mother.
That is extraordinary.
And father.
I love that. I actually love that. It is
Yes.
funny. People get into their routines on the radio, and they know what they know, and they
Yes.
and so and let's be fair. Most people listen to the radio sort of while they're doing other stuff. It's not like the old days where people will pull up a chair and sit down and lean into the radio and just listen to every word of the Jack Benny show or whatever. So we recognize that you're listening, but at the same time, it's sort of on in the room or on in the car while there's stuff's going on. And I'll tell you, I remember when I started here doing mornings 13 years ago, and then I switched to afternoons, and it took a year for people to know that I was no longer doing mornings anymore. It was very
really
weird. Yes, it's
wow.
very weird thing. And they just hear a voice and they just figure it is who it is. So I can see, to me, I think you and Julie sound very different.
I think so too, but we also we share a lot in common, and so and our voices, they do sometimes, when I hear her on the air while I'm driving the kids, I'm like, that does sound a little bit like me, or something I might say, for example.
That's wild. Well, it's good to have you here on a Wednesday.
Good to be here with you, Larry.
National League won the All-Star game last night. Apparently they did.
Okay.
Remember how I think it was like 15 years ago, they had this epic extra innings game that just went on. And the All-Star game is fun and it's great, but at the same time, first of all, the All-Star game didn't have any stakes. Now, they decided to change it because the players were having fun, which is what the All-Star game's supposed to be. And then they added a wrinkle after this game went on and on and on, and they ran out of pitchers, and it just ended up in a tie. And everyone was like, wait, you can't have a tie. And they decided, okay, we're going to change the stakes now. This year, the winner of the All-Star game gets home field advantage in the World Series, and that sort of changed the stakes on the All-Star game. So now it means something, so the players might play a little bit. Honestly, the players didn't really play that much harder. But I guess it put a wrinkle in it. Well, this year they had a tie again, and instead of going into the wee hours of the morning and making the players play that long on what's supposed to be the mid-season break, they decided to add a home run derby, like a swing off, basically. And this is the first time they've ever had this.
Well, the NBA does similar things where they do like the dunking contest. Really great branding, great opportunity to get people excited.
Right. I mean, well, they do that as an exhibition like the day before the game. And then Major League Baseball does that too. Major League Baseball has a home run derby. But this was to determine the winner of the game, which is a new wrinkle.
Okay.
It's like, can you imagine? Okay. It's like a shootout at the end of a soccer game. Your people call it football. I know you European types there in your house. You get on.
I'm not European.
No, that's true.
I'm from the Caribbean.
Well, British colony.
Yeah, well, okay, more of an Irish influence on my island, by the way, as we've talked about.
I consider non-Americans to just be, over there, Europe, Africa, all the same. Anyway, the point is, you call it football, we call it soccer.
Okay.
And we now determine tiebreakers with a shootout in soccer.
Which is common,
And hockey does the same thing, too, except for in the playoffs. Anyway, the point is, Major League Baseball last night, for the first time, used a home run derby, a swing-off, basically, for the first time to determine the winner of the game. And the National League, they blew a 6-run lead over the final 3 innings. Let it land. I went to sleep by the time this happened, by the way. I'm just catching up on it. American League tied the game, and then the National League won it in a swing-off. So there you go.
Well, to have lost, that means you put up your worst batters. I mean, I'm just trying to understand how they blew their lead. Did the other team just put up better batters for that?
That happens sometimes in baseball. You get into the later innings, and some of the pitchers and batters matchups are more in favor of one team than the other, and that blowing the lead is not that big of it. See, are you not a big baseball fan? Are we going to have to start from the beginning on this?
I really am not, honestly. I think it's boring to watch.
Again, European.
I love American football just like I love football. Because it's exciting. It's men crushing against each other, broken limbs. There's excitement there. Baseball is just a yawn. I'm sorry for everybody who's going to hate me now because I said that, but it's true.
We're not going to hate you. We're just going to question your judgment on things. The National League won the All-Star game last night, and for the first time in history, it was decided by a home run derby, and that's all you need to know. Good morning. We'll get to the news in a moment. First, it's 5:15. Well, that was news, by the way. The All-Star game is
It was news.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
We love it here when the New York Times and the Washington Post and the rest of the mainstream media slip into a pattern where they're trying to be genuine and important, frankly, self-important, and they sound like they're parody. They sound like they're the Babylon Bee. They look like they're the Onion. Is the Onion still a thing? And this
remember that op-ed about the clown? last on Friday that we discussed? That's what
Oh,
you're talking
yes.
about.
Yes, I'm a clown. Please don't lump Donald Trump in with us. That's right. That was
Yes.
the New York Times. Or the Washington Post. Who knows? They're all the same thing. Well, this headline from the New York Times outdoes the clown headline. Are you ready for this? This is real.
I'm ready.
I saw this go by, and I was sure that someone had generated this from AI or photoshopped it and put it together. Because people do that. People do like fake headlines
Yes.
for a joke. This is real. This is genuine. The New York Times was dead serious when they published this headline of an op-ed in the New York Times. Here's the headline. I was one of Biden's border advisors. Here's how to fix our immigration system.
Oh, that is a Babylon Bee headline.
That is real. This is by Blas Nunez Neto, Assistant Secretary for Border and Immigration Policy at the Department of Homeland Security during the Biden administration. And he is now giving advice, and the New York Times is publishing it. Really, the story here is that the New York Times published it. The story here is that someone exercised editorial judgment, such as it is, at the New York Times and said, yes, let's take this essay, and I've got the perfect headline for it. I was one of Biden's border advisors. Here's how to fix our immigration system.
It's stunning. It's stunning that this person who was an undersecretary, so this isn't even a nameless person somewhere in DHS. This was an assistant secretary. So this is someone who they claim in the article. I can't tell if Blas is male or female, whichever the case is. This person said that he or she had put forward ideas on how to slow the surge of migrants at the border, but didn't say what happened to those ideas. Did that person press? Did that person elevate the issue as high up as possible? I don't think so. Did the person, when they had the chance to speak to President Biden at the time, or his advisors, whomever was pulling the strings, raise these issues and raise these solutions? No. So this is somebody trying to launch maybe a new K Street operation. Maybe this is somebody who's trying to clean up their record so they can get a job somewhere else in maybe a Democratic administration in the future, but I don't buy it.
Yeah. So listen, I appreciate the critical analysis of what Blas Nunez Neto has to say, but honestly, and to be fair, it sounds like the whole essay is sort of the Costanza approach. Remember the episode of the Seinfeld when George Costanza decided that everything that he did was wrong and all of his instincts were wrong. So if every time he had to make a major decision, he would do the opposite of what his instinct told him to do, he would probably end up good, right? Because everything all his decisions were bad. So now I'll just do the opposite. So, and it started to work. It was the Costanza method. It's like, okay, just do the opposite of what George Costanza would do. So in a way, like, for instance, at the very beginning, famously, the Biden approach to the border was to claim that everything was fine and there was no crisis and the border was secure. For 3 years, they lied to us. So I kid you not, the opening paragraph of this essay is, the first step in responding to a crisis is to acknowledge it exists. The surge in illegal crossings at our southern border during the first 3 years of Joe Biden's presidency was, by any reasonable definition, a crisis. So, which they, of course, refuse to admit. It sounds like, the setup here is basically don't do what we did, which, that is sound advice. No, but really,
I guess
the story
that's good
here,
advice.
The New York Times publishing it and demanding to be taken seriously. So, of course, everybody had a good time with this yesterday. People started writing their alternate headlines like, I was in charge of navigation on the Titanic. Here's how to avoid icebergs.
There you go. That's a good one.
I wrote, my version was,
look through this.
My version was, I was in charge of casting for Disney's reboot of Snow White.
Ooh.
Here's how to cast a new movie. And even the Department of Homeland Security, itself republished this headline and said, I was Humpty Dumpty. Here's how to sit on a wall. People had quite a bit of fun with it.
That's a good one. I mean, I guess it's now, listen, Larry, I think here's where we're at now. It's now okay to tell the truth that for 4 years had been called lies, misinformation, conspiracy theories. Now all the people who sat on it and claimed the truth were lies are now admitting the lies were truth to begin with. That's where we're at. And maybe this is like their Karine Jean-Pierre, I'm walking away. Maybe that's what it is. I'm walking away, so I'm willing to say, yeah, all those asylum claims are lies. They're not true. We shouldn't grant them, even if we want to be kind.
Patrice, you're right, and good for them for trying to salvage some kind of legitimacy out of their career and all the horrible choices they made to participate in the Biden administration. Honestly, go with God, Blas. I hope it works out for you. New York Times, though, you deserve all the ridicule you're getting for participating in this and acting like you're the serious intellectuals in the room. It's 5:24.
All right. So coming up, it's not a Seinfeld repeat, but it is another repeat in Senate. We've got J.D. Vance making a tie-breaking vote to cancel $9 billion of ridiculous spending. We'll have more of these details. Stay with us. It's O'Connor and Company at 5:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:36. Good morning. Wednesday here in the nation's capital. It's O'Connor and Company. Coming up at 6:35, our weekly visit with syndicated columnist Cal Thomas. 7:05, Daniel Turner, Power of the Future, on yesterday's big energy summit in Pennsylvania. 8:05 brings us Nick Minock, WJLA. And then at 8:35, Chuck Thies, who's going to tell us why D.C. just voted for Trayon White again. I think we know the answer to that. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning, Larry. D.C. was just D.C. What can you say?
It's just D.C. being D.C. All right. There was a big test for Republicans in the Senate yesterday, and that had to do with this, what is it, $8 billion, $9 billion
$9 billion
rescission package.
Yes.
It's a $9 billion rescission package that included a whole bunch of things that the Democrats had ladled into the last reconciliation package and continuing continuing resolution to keep the government funded. And, they keep adding all of this stuff, and included things like funding to USAID that paid for Iraq's version of Sesame Street and, Viagra for people in Uganda. I'm making that up, but it's things like that the American people don't want to pay for.
Crazy stuff. And these are unspent funds, by the way, Larry. This is not money that's kind of gone out the door. It's unspent, and it's just clawing it back.
Right. The idea is that Russ Vought, director of OMB, gets in. He's the new guy in town. He picks up this budget that's already been agreed to. He looks through it with the president, and they decide, this stuff, we don't need to do this. We don't want to do this, so they're giving it back. And Congress can take that back. Or Congress can say, no, you've got to spend money on the Iraq version of Sesame Street. Now, it's funny, the Democrats' argument here, now they, of course, want to spend as much of our money on needless things as possible. But their argument to the media has been, listen, we had a budget deal with Republicans. Remember, we had to agree to this budget deal, and we agreed to this, and they agreed to that, and we had a handshake, and it was done. Now Republicans are coming back and saying, take back this other stuff. Well, that was part of the deal, and if they want to take back part of the deal, they got to open up the whole deal again. It's a BS argument, but that's their argument. Strangely.
No, they're just upset they've never thought of using rescissions before, but please go ahead, Larry.
Well, they never would think of using rescissions because they want to spend money on everything.
Unless it's on military spending, let's be honest. Unless it's the military, the Pentagon.
Regardless of that, the biggest part of the rescission package and the real test for senators here is, number one, can you guys get it together and at least cut $9 billion from the budget? That's all we're asking, $9 billion. That's
low-hanging fruit.
Chump change to George Soros, right? But number two, the biggest part of the rescission package, as you all know, and you may think I'm burying the lead, but I'm building up to it actually, is the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, NPR and PBS. And sadly, 3 Republicans in the United States Senate actually held the line and insisted on maintaining this $9 billion and the funding for PBS and NPR. And as Ann Coulter pointed out, all three of the Republican senators who voted to keep that spending happened to be women. That would be Senators Lisa McCaskey, Susan Collins, and Mitch McConnell. Now,
okay.
That was Ann Coulter, not me. I would never say such a thing. That was Ann Coulter. Here's the good news. 3 senators, as I just mentioned, voted no on this. That meant it was a 50-50 tie. In comes J.D. Vance. He broke the tie, and the rescission package has moved, well, really just one step away now from finally getting passed. This was a preliminary vote. It opens up debate now. Now they're going to do 8 hours of debate. But generally speaking... And
votes on amendments as well to the bill.
This is how these votes go down, though. And that means that by Thursday, we can finally do the final victory lap here. And the folks at Media Research Center who have been fighting this fight for nearly 30 years now. And poor Tim Graham, what's he going to do with his life? Tim Graham has been monitoring PBS and NPR forever, and the outrageous, illegal bias that they inject into everything that they do, which is against the law, by the way. The law, if they receive this public funding, means that they're not allowed to be partisan or politically biased. And, of course, everything coming out of NPR is politically biased. NPR is not going away. Government funding is going away. NPR is, trust me, way too valuable to just die. They're still – in fact, they'll probably raise more money because of this from their crazy left-wing fanatics. They will have to, and that's fine. Of course. Let them raise it the good old-fashioned way. They might even want to sell ads on their radio station. I know. It's shocking to think of.
I mean, listen, Larry, this vote was really important. You've got the first step of the One Big Beautiful Bill being law right now. That made some generational changes to our welfare programs. But the next step was really also finding new ways to reduce federal funding. You know, Elon Musk made a big hullabaloo that there was not enough Doge cut funding in cuts in the Big Beautiful Bill. Well, this is the start. This is where we start to see some of the waste and fraud and egregious abuses of our tax dollars overseas and here in the United States be used and eliminated. And so if Republicans cannot, and remember, folks, this has already passed the House of Representatives. It's the Senate's job to step up to the plate. If it could not pass the Senate, and we still haven't gotten to the finish line yet, but that says something about conservatives. You have the chance to reduce the size of government, and you're not going to do it. So let's hope that it does get over the finish line.
It says something about Republicans, is what it says. But this was it. I mean, the final vote will go down exactly the way you just saw it. Any concerns that they had about rural areas getting storm alerts were blown out of the water, partly yesterday by our segment on it. They don't have a fig leaf anymore, and it will be done. But speaking of what the Democrats and what the deep state has done here with your tax dollars and the stuff that's sort of off the books, listen to this. Brandon Gill, one of the shining lights in this freshman class of Republicans, he had a hearing yesterday. Very bright. And he was speaking with Mike Gonzalez of the Heritage Foundation. Everyone's saying, oh, children are going to starve because USAID is shut down. No, listen to what they were doing. USAID was a left-wing propaganda slush fund that Democrats used off the books for policies that were not public, were not voted on, were not discussed. Hungary is our ally. Hungary and the president of Hungary, even if we disagree with them politically at any given time, are our ally, and we're not supposed to undermine their democratic process. But that's exactly what happened when no one was looking because USAID was a left-wing slush fund. Listen.
I think that the Biden administration was so interested in using our tax dollars to funnel monetary support for domestic political opposition in an allied nation in order to harm a democratically elected government.
Well, for the same reason it did it in Guatemala and Macedonia with equally pro-U.S. leaders. It just didn't like conservative governments that were trying to do things like fighting for life, fighting for demographic growth in all these countries. Disagreed with their foreign policy. All these leaders were also very pro-Israel, pro-Taiwan. In the case of Guatemala. So I think that it was just the Biden administration disagreed with the politics of these countries even though it went against U.S. interests to disagree with these governments.
That's right. They used USAID as a left-wing slush fund to prop up governments and politicians that they don't like and undermine duly elected people. And these are not like dictators. These are not like, banana republics. Yes. These are not violent, No, these are just people that they disagreed with policy-wise, and so then they meddled in their elections. There's more of that scandal to be uncovered, and I hope they do.
Breaking news and the inside story on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
I'll tell you what, I think Adam Schiff is one of the lowest of the low. I would love to see him brought to justice. He's a dishonest, crooked guy. I don't know about the individual charge, if that even happens, but Adam Schiff is a serious lowlife.
President Trump yesterday on his way to that energy summit in Pennsylvania asked about Adam Schiff. Why was he asked about Adam Schiff? Well, because President Trump posted earlier that morning on his True Social account now some revelations that Adam Schiff is being investigated for financial crimes, specifically possible mortgage fraud. Here's a quick trivia question for you. Is there a difference between a primary residence and a secondary residence, Patrice?
Well, I mean, your primary residence is where you live. Your secondary is like your vacation home.
Right. Or maybe you have a second home that you utilize not for work purposes even, but it's still not your primary residence. But the whole point is one can only have one primary resident, right? It's literally impossible to have two primary residences. Certainly impossible to have two primary residences on two different coasts of our nation, right? Where do you live? Oh, I live in Maryland, and I live in California. Well, wait, but where do you live? What's your primary residence? Both are my primary residence. No, that's impossible. But that's what Adam Schiff claimed.
One is primary, yeah.
He claimed that his $1.1 million Potomac home is his primary residence, and he claimed his $1 million Burbank condominium is also his primary residence. That's wrong. That circumvents mortgage law and tax law, and he's now being investigated for it. Here's an explanation on Laura Ingraham last night, because the irony here is that this is the sort of thing that they went after Donald Trump for with criminal charges. Listen.
Look, the mortgage fraud issue might seem technical or it's just a small, minor thing, but what can you tell us?
Well, when Trump does it, they make it seem like the biggest deal ever when they alleged he did it in the New York case. So that's a fun irony here. But basically, it's lying on a mortgage application to get more favorable loan terms. And when you say it's your primary residence, you get a more favorable loan term than if it's a rental residence or something else. And what's really interesting about this, Adam, this was not just coming from President Trump. 2023, the CNN reported on this issue. So he's on one hand saying he's a resident of California to run for office, to run from House and then for the Senate, and also taking a deduction in California based on the claiming residency in California.
That's right. So you can't take the deduction in both states if one is your primary and one is not your primary. And yes, this predates Donald Trump becoming president of the United States. This goes all the way back to when they were trying to convict Donald Trump of mortgage fraud for different reasons, by the way, and way shakier. This is pretty legit. And Adam Schiff is saying that this is just a political witch hunt.
Is this common for Democrats? Because our own Angela Alsobrooks had some questionable behavior when it came to second homes. I don't think it was as far as mortgage fraud, but I believe she dodged tax bills related to a property she received from her grandmother and kind of claimed that it was a primary residence.
That's correct.
Improperly claimed that too. So, hey, why not look into all of the property owned by all of these senators to make sure that they're not, engaged in some improprieties here.
Let's focus on Adam Schiff in particular, though, because he's a particularly odious individual. But you're right. This does seem to be a pattern, because the last person that was accused of doing this, and that case is still pending, is none other than Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, who claimed primary residence in Virginia, yet at the same time having her primary residence, obviously, in the state of New York. She, of course, is the one who convicted Donald Trump of mortgage fraud back in the day. It's amazing how things come around. 5:53.